The history of the presidency of Nigeria is like Game of Thrones. It is filled with coups, deception, and death. Since 1963, 13 men have claimed presidency over Nigeria, some by force, some by the people, and one basically with good luck. How they are fared as heads of state is subjective. However, history is what we will look at today on Green Click. By the way, be a friend and subscribe, share, and like to help us make more videos you love about our great country. Let's dive in. Abubakar Tafawa Balewa was the first leader of Nigeria, but he was a bestowed prime minister that helped Nigeria transition from the monarchy to the indigenous rule of Nigeria. He lasted 3 years as a prime minister until Nnamdi Azikiwe became the very first president. Azikiwe was a journalist in America before coming back to Nigeria, where he established the University of Nigeria. However, he only lasted as the head of Nigeria for 3 years, as his rule was cut short by Major General Johnson Aguiyi Ironsi. Ironsi seized power in 1966 after a bloody coup in which his army killed Balewa, the very first prime minister. But as we know, those who live by the sword will die by the sword. Ironsi did not last a year because he was murdered by his own men. When you kill darlings of Nigeria, you rarely get away with it. Ironsi's chief of staff, Yakubu Gowon, was elected to rule by 7 junior officers right after his predecessor's death. Once in power, Gowon sparked the Biafran War, also known as the Nigerian Civil War, which claimed more than 1 million lives in 30 months. During his reign, natural oil began to put Nigeria on the international stage. Gowon's positive contribution to Nigeria was the construction of the international airport, a stadium, and an arts theater. He was in office for almost 9 years until he was overthrown by General MURTALA Mohammed. MURTALA Mohammed overthrew Gowon while Gowon was at a summit in Uganda. He was the leader to make Abuja the federal capital of Nigeria while creating 7 more states in Nigeria. You could call him somewhat of a communist leader, as he controlled the media airwaves of the country. He also decreased the amount of officers in the army by almost 100,000 men. He also did not last more than 200 days, as he was assassinated before the age of 40. He was shot in his car on the way to his office. General Olusegun Obasanjo succeeded Murtala Mohammed and acted as Balewa, but this time helped transition Nigerian leadership from the current military to the civilian rule. He was in office for 3 years until the country held general elections in 1979 and its citizens appointed Shehu Shagari. Mr. One Nation, One Destiny was in office for 4 years. During his term, he focused on housing, transportation, and agriculture. However, his camp became a target of corruption claims, and an economic recession during the oil boom period did not help his claim to be a good leader. Shagari was eventually overthrown by General Muhammadu Buhari, who immediately tried to improve the Nigerian economy. His rule in his 3-year period is known to be one of the harsh policies, but with the honest intent of making Nigeria better. He increased interest rates and pushed Nigeria from the International Monetary Fund. He also waged a war against indiscipline, which is the legacy of having soldiers with whips ready to discipline any civilian not following the law. At the end of the day, you cannot please everyone, and Buhari was overthrown by General BABANGIDA. Babangida claimed that Buhari failed to deal with the Nigerian economic problems. He condemned Buhari to detention for almost 3 years. While head of Nigeria for almost 8 years, Babangida created 11 more states, devalued the Naira after pressure from the World Bank and the IMF. He also legalized the formation of political parties and promised to let presidential elections happen to determine the next president. MKO Abiola was the unofficial elected president. However, Babangida annulled the elections. It was probably the most corrupt leadership period in Nigerian history. Eventually, IBB resigned as the leader of Nigeria and gave the title to President Ernest Shonekan. He had the unenviable task of turning a shambolic economy to a stable one, but unfortunately, President Shonekan lasted for less than 3 months before he was overthrown by General Sani Abacha. Abacha, a wildly infamous president, came in and immediately gave himself immunity from prosecution and granted himself absolute power. Ruthless against anyone who opposed him, Abacha gained the international infamy and surprisingly improved the economy of Nigeria, increasing the reserves by almost 18 times and drastically reducing the national debt. His 4 years plus came to a screeching halt as he was found dead in his home. Speculations about his death has lingered on for years, as the official cause of death was a heart attack. But the average Nigerian believes he was poisoned by 2 prostitutes imported from Dubai, possibly with an apple. General Abdulsalami Abubakar reluctantly took office. after the death of Abacha. He was in office just shy of a year and handed the presidency back to civilian rule in 1999. Did you happen to miss Olusegun Obasanjo? Because he was elected president of Nigeria, but as a civilian. He traveled around aiming to fix the name and reputation of Nigeria. On his successful second term, he defeated Buhari, which was filled with cultural and religious tension. However, Obasanjo was aiming for a third term, one he refused to this day, but we will talk about that in another video. President UMARU Musa Yar'Adua was sworn in office after 8 years of Obasanjo. Not much can be said about his reign because he died in office just shy of 3 years into his term. He was receiving treatment for pericarditis, and then Vice President Goodluck Jonathan became acting president until Yar'Adua unfortunately did not recover. So Goodluck Jonathan took on the role of presidency under, and I quote, very sad and unusual circumstances, but aimed to tackle corruption, the unstable electricity issue, and to improve the economy. Some will mention that his rule was also a corrupt one, while others say he was easily manipulated by those around him. Goodluck was in office for 5 years. Now we come to our current president, who like Obasanjo is serving a civilian leadership after being a military leader. President Buhari has spent most of his first term negating the Boko Haram influence and traveling. He is currently looking for a second term, but his competition seems fierce. Wow, so in total there have been 13 presidents. 2 were assassinated, 2 died in office, 2 have served 2 different times as presidents, and 1 has become a president from being a vice president. Definitely, this is a very condensed version of the history of the Nigerian presidency. We encourage you to read more so that it can help you as you go out and vote this year. Thank you for spending a few hours of your day with us. If you'd like to be informed when we roll out new videos, subscribe and give us a like. Share this with a friend and drop a comment if you disagree or would like to request a video. Till then, brothers and sisters, have a nice day.